What up, guys? Welcome back. So today, the iPhone 15 Plus, 2 months later. Do I still feel the same way? I dropped a ton of videos on this device when it launched. How do I feel about it now? Let's check it out. But if you're new to the channel, guys, hit that like, drop a sub. The iPhone 15 Plus. We're going to talk about the design and the build quality of this device. One of my favorite iPhones in a long time when it comes to design. Now, I wish I did get the matte black color. This is the matte blue. I know it's like a white color, but it is considered blue by Apple. The black color, I think, is the best color option in the lineup this year for the Plus models and the iPhone 15 models. But overall, I love all the colors for one reason: no fingerprints. You don't ever see fingerprints on this device. Now, I do rock it with the case. It is very slippery because I did drop this, as I mentioned in previous videos, and I did chip the aluminum frame on the top and the bottom corner. So without a case, I know a lot of you like to rock your phone without a case. I am also one of those people, but I did drop this literally like day 2 that I had the phone. And I chipped the top and bottom, and it didn't drop from a very large distance. Basically, I'm like 6 feet tall, so it dropped from pocket height onto the floor face down, and somehow both corners did get chipped up. So throw a case on it, throw a screen protector on it if you want to protect it. They are still very expensive, starting at $900, but the color is great. The design on here, the rounded edges makes it very nice to hold. The aluminum build on here makes it very lightweight. I don't have any issues with how this phone feels and with how it looks this year compared to even last year's devices. The Plus models, fingerprint magnets, right? That's what we usually have. When did we get matte devices on some of the lesser end iPhones? Right, the Pro models, we get matte finishes on them all the time. The Plus models in recent years have had just that crappy, glossy fingerprint magnet finish. So I'm happy to see a different look this year. And the rounded edges on here make this device just very comfortable to hold. It still looks the same when we're talking about the squared off edges, but you will notice a huge difference when holding this. The phone is just comfortable to hold. Now, 6.7-inch display, the exact same display with the exact same brightness that we get on the 15 Pro Max, up to 2000 nits in direct sunlight. And I haven't had any issues at all using this phone outside in direct sunlight. More than bright enough. The Pro XDR display on here, it is a very nice OLED display. Now, of course, a lot of you, 60 hertz, 120 hertz. Look, and I see these messages all the time, and a lot of people are, on either side of the fence. Do I think this should have at least 90 hertz for the lesser models of the iPhone? Of course I do. This is still a $900 phone starting price. A lot of your arguments in the comment section, and I read every comment. You can get a lot more for a lot less money on the Android side of things. That is very true. A lot of phones that are $200-300 on Android will come with 120 hertz refresh rate. Unfortunately, these are iPhones, and we just don't have that luxury as of yet. Now, saying that, yes, I do believe this should have 90 or even 120 hertz. Still a $900 phone, starting price point. Is it smooth? It is still smooth. iOS and iPhones have always had a very smooth 60 hertz experience. Do I wish it was something different? Of course I do, but we don't have that. So it is what it is, right? We're stuck with 60 hertz on an iPhone. Maybe next year we will get a little bump up with the refresh rate on here, but it is what it is. And it is still very smooth. If you are 98-99% of the people out there, you're not going to notice it and you're not going to care. It's the tech nerds, the tech circle, the people that watch my videos. There's a lot of you that want a higher refresh rate, and I'm right there with you. This should be at least 90 minimum, or not even, or just 120. Just throw 120 on it. Why not? Across the board, throw 120 on it. But look, they have to differentiate the devices somehow. And that is one way, aside from the extra camera lens. We'll talk about the photos and the cameras in a little bit. Now, one nice addition to the iPhone 15 Plus, the notch is no longer here. So we get the dynamic island. So from the front anyway, it's going to look and feel just like the Pro model. So if you're one of those people that need the latest and greatest, the Pro model, If you're looking from the front, it's going to look just like it, and it's not just an eyesore like the notch that's covering Face ID. There's a use case for this. It is usable for many different things. With the clock app, playing music on here, you can see it's a little wider. You can open up right to it. You shut it, it goes right back in. You can touch and hold on it and do whatever you want right there from the dynamic island. So I do really like that we get that usability on here. I'm still not a fan of it. I still wish it was like a little punch hole like we have on Android devices. It's just a nicer look, more screen real estate, but at least the dynamic island is better than the notch in every single way. So we touched on the display. We touched on dynamic island. iOS on here is great. I haven't had any issues on here, and I'm using the beta, and I am in, I think it's iOS 17.2 right now. Yeah, we're on 17.2 right now. And I really haven't had any issues, no bugs on here at all. It has been very smooth. And right now I'm just trying to think of something that may have occurred over the last few months using this device. I don't really remember any bugs that I've experienced on this device. Now, I'm not a big gamer on here. A lot of you guys, look, we heard the rumors about the 15 Pro. A lot of people have experienced overheating issues on the Pro and the Pro Max. This is not the case with the 15 Plus. So on here, watching content, gaming, or anything like that, I haven't noticed any issues when watching any content. This thing does not even get warm, ever. It is cool to the touch always. Aluminum dissipates heat better than what we have with the titanium on the Pro models. So if you are worried about this thing overheating, it is not a problem on the 15 Plus or on the iPhone 15. That is only strictly for the Pro models. Now, I did own the 15 Pro Max. It did get warm all the time. I never had it overheat. I never had it stop working, but it did significantly get warm whenever I was doing something with that device. So a big difference when it comes to the feel and the heat that these phones generate between the Plus and the Pro Max. Big difference. This thing, cool to the touch all the time. Even when charging, it really doesn't even get warm. It's been very good. And speaking of that and battery life on here, when I first got this device, battery life was off the charts, and it's still fantastic. A day and a half, no issues on this device. The 15 Plus is one of the best phones out there for battery life. You're going to get a day and a half, between a day and a half and 2 days, depending on how heavy of a user you are. Now, the cameras on here, a nice improvement on the cameras on here. Now, we do get the two lenses on here, the 48 megapixel wide angle as your main sensor, the same sensor that was in the 14 Pro Max of last year, and then the 12 megapixel ultra wide, which is an older sensor. We also get the 2x zoom on here, so you're not really missing out on the telephoto, and I'm going to explain why. But the cameras on here have been very good. You can see I take a lot of B-roll and a lot of screenshots on here with this camera. This is my B-roll camera. So anytime I shoot a video and you see products in my videos, it is taken with the 15 Plus, and it does a fantastic job. And you can see here, I'm in portrait mode now, taking when I'm trying to make a screenshot for a video. It is also coming from this device. So I always use this phone. This, for me, as you can see here, product video shots for the Jabra video that I did drop. This is for the podcast. If you haven't checked out the podcast, check out Bourbon and Blunts on YouTube and all audio platforms. Pretty dope podcast. We have a bunch of videos coming up on these products. The Nothing Watch Pro, that is coming this weekend. So the camera setup on here, if you want a phone that you can just pull out of your pocket, point and shoot, this is that. Now, I did mention the 2x zoom on here, as you can see right here. What's good about that is when you're zooming in, you have that 48 megapixel on here. So when you zoom in, you're going to lose less detail because the megapixel count is so high. And then you can zoom, you can digitally zoom from there all the way up to 10x. And that's where you kind of see the downgrade or the pixelation or the noise, depending on what situation you are shooting in, that's where you're going to see the photos become less crisp and less sharp. Still pretty good, but that's where the dedicated telephoto lens comes in and helps out a little bit. But the 2X, very clean, very crispy. The photos on here, just point and shoot. I don't have any issues with the camera on here at all. And of course, video quality, 4K up to 60 frames per second. This phone, when it comes to photo and video, does a fantastic job all around the board. Now, what are some of the other things on here that make this device worth $899? It's still a very high price point, right? But again, we're talking about Apple, we're talking about iPhones, and you can get cheaper iPhones, but you're not getting a lot of the bells and whistles. So the main thing that this device is lacking, and the main point and comment that I see from you guys out there, is the lack of 120 hertz. That is what is, just throwing a lot of people off when it comes to buying this phone, because it is still $900. And I get it, I understand. Just know you're saving. Is that 120 hertz worth an extra $300 to bump up to the Pro Max? For me, it's not. Maybe on an Android device, that might be different. But on an iPhone, that 60 hertz to 120, is there a big difference when you're using them side by side? Of course there is. You use this for a day, 2 days, you're going to forget all about it because it's going to feel smooth, and it's not worth the $300 extra if you want to bump up from the Plus to the Pro Max. For me, it's not. You guys drop a comment and let me know if you think it's worth it. $300 for 120 hertz refresh rate on here. Other than that, we're getting the same display, the same peak brightness, very similar speakers on here. So watching content, never an issue. Battery life on here to the Pro Max is very comparable. For me, this was always a little better. I've heard some people say the Pro Max is just slightly better. I guess it depends on how you use your device. But either way, the 15 Plus is a monster when it comes to battery life. It's very lightweight, very comfortable. And that's kind of one thing that weirded me out about the Pro Max. The Pro Max, because of the titanium build on here or on there, doesn't feel as premium as the stainless steel devices from last year, the 13 Pro Max. Those feel more premium. The lightness of the 15 Pro Max, because of the titanium build, it doesn't feel much different than holding the 15 Plus in any way. Now, one other thing that this doesn't have, the action button on the 15 Pro Max. You might love it, you might hate it. I've heard both, but you still get the mute switch, the iconic mute switch here from Apple. I use this thing daily. Literally daily, I am using the mute switch on the iPhone. I'm still glad that it's here, and I don't mind not having the action button. It was cool, a little gimmicky on the Pro Max, but the mute switch, I'm glad it's still here. I don't have any issues with that. But look, still overall, a lot of the same thoughts that I still have about this phone that I had in the initial impressions video, that I had with 1 week, 2 weeks later with this device. Still one of the best iPhones you can buy right now. If you are upgrading from anything below the 15 or the 14 Pro Max, I would suggest this device all day long. That's it, guys. Let me know what you think of the iPhone 15 Plus or the 15 or the Pro Max or the Pro. If you have a new iPhone, drop some comments. Let me know. That's it. Just a quick video talking about this device. I'll be back soon. Peace.